Hey guys, this is Danny Boy. This is my final series for Diablo 3. I will not be making any more videos for Diablo 3 until the game comes out and I've reached Inferno difficulty. Unless there's some incredibly dramatic system changes through the beta, but I highly doubt that's going to happen at this point. So, this is my Barbarian playthrough. I believe I just get him to level 8. It's just going to be one playthrough. I'm going to try to do this in 2 parts, as I did my Wizard playthrough. Funny that it started at 5 parts, then went down to 3 parts, then went down to 2 parts. More and more editing as time went on. And it also took more and more playthroughs to get the footage that I wanted, so I had to edit when it came down to it. So, the Barbarian. You start out with Bash, effective, knocks people back, does damage, all in good fun. I think these last 2 videos, I feel like I have been very negative. I feel like I have spent most of my time talking about the things I dislike about the game, for the most part. So I'm going to try to focus on what I like about the game. The improvements to the game, things that I really enjoy. Alright, well, first off, I do like the new rune and skill system. I think I mentioned I thought it was a huge step forward. I think it is... I would probably say it is, in fact, more interesting than Synergies, and just adding plus to skill points in Diablo 2. Those were essentially passive benefits. I do argue against the idea that they didn't make you feel more powerful. I think that's untrue. Depending on the skill and the Synergies and whatever, you could feel a tremendous increase in your character's power and what you could handle. How difficult hell was for the character and what have you. But I think it's a good choice. I think it's a different choice. I think it, in the long run, will be more fun and will create more builds down the road. So I do think there is more customization in that regard. I like how they changed the resource system for some of the different classes. I like the rage system for the Barbarian. I like... Let's see, there's rage. Mana's fine. I like Discipline for Demon Hunters. I think the Focus Builder for Hatred Builder / Hatred Spender system could be revised to an extent. It could easily be fixed just by the nature of making Spenders more useful and more powerful. The ones available in beta definitely were not useful enough to use. You'd be better off just using your Focus Builders, especially once you get the runes for them. So, and the ratio at which you spend Hatred and you build it depending on your builder is so poor that you can only get a few seconds of your Hatred Spender off anyway. So, or a few shots of it or whatever. So I think that should be revised, but that can be easily done by just making the Hatred Spenders more powerful. They're interesting enough. I think it's just more an issue of numbers for the most part. And runes will make them even more interesting as time goes on. Arcane Power, I think, is one of the weaker resources out there. It's far too similar to mana. Signature spells aren't interesting enough to be called signatures. Just the nature that they're free is not an interesting enough mechanic to warrant Arcane Power. And what does that leave? Spirit for the monk? I'm not sure about Spirit yet, honestly. It seems to just be kind of a reverse rage mechanic that doesn't deplete when you're out of combat, but it doesn't regenerate when you're out of combat either. So rather than starting at empty and you build up, you start at full and you slowly work your way down. But it doesn't recharge at all out of combat, and that really sucks when you're just trying to use your movement power, because it makes them, I mean, beyond the Barbarian, but the Barbarian, rage depletes really slowly, and you can build it up so much, and all their movement powers, his movement powers have cooldowns anyway, I think. But it kind of sucks for the monk. I'm not sure about that, though. I don't know about sprint. But I do know the monk, if you're out of spirit, out of combat, you can't use your movement power, and there's no way to build it up again. The Barbarian at least has cooldowns to build him rage outside of combat eventually as well, so yeah, I'm not sure about spirit yet. Okay, beyond that, I like the crafting system. I do like it, at least in principle. I haven't seen it enough to really make a final conclusion on it, because, I mean, you have limited access to it in the beta. But I do like the potential there. I think it's interesting. I like the revamp of the merc system. I think followers are infinitely superior to mercs. I'm very glad to see that they've changed. I will be happy to see... I hope they add more mercs. more followers in expansions and DLC and whatever. I like the character of the followers, at least what I've seen. You know, I like the Templar. I think that's a step forward. You know, the rune system's great. A lot of the abilities are great. A lot of them aren't so great, but there's enough there. And part of that, I guess, is also just taste. You know, that is a subjective, whether or not you like an ability, when you're not taking numbers into consideration. So I guess it depends on the player, so I can't fault them for that. And there should be a large enough variety that enough players find what they want and what's interesting. Physics. The physics of the game are great. They did a great job of the physics, of killing monsters, of destroying environmental features and structures, doodads. Environmental damage should be expanded on a bit. The little bit you see in the cathedral is okay, but they could definitely improve that. More traps and whatever. But I definitely love the physics. I love the barbarians. You know, you hit them hard enough that it knocks them away, and then you kill them and they explode in gore and whatever. I think that's great. Great flavor. I love how long the ground decals remain on the ground. They seem to really only disappear when you've left the area. You know, that you've gotten enough frames away that they disappear just to prevent system slowdown from all of the decals and the corpses and whatever. Beyond that, well, the salvage system and the crafting system seems to do a good job of making gold valuable. I'm not sure. I think there's also a gambling system or something. I don't know all of the crafters. I don't remember them off the top of my head. They removed one, I think, the Mystic, something like that, so I'm not really sure about the current information for that. But if they succeed in making gold valuable, I'll be very happy. Torchlight did it. Torchlight 2 hopefully will do it again. I see no reason why they wouldn't, so that's a good sign. I can't really comment on items, because the only things you can find in the beta are magics and rares, and magic and rares really aren't that interesting. The uniques that have the really interesting, or the sets that have the interesting modifications that really fundamentally change a character, or have really just interesting, unique mods on them. So I can't really comment on that. On what I've seen, I mean, it seems fine. It's nothing interesting, but I wouldn't expect it to be interesting. Magic items are in the game pretty much solely to be salvaged, and rares are more just a stepping stone to getting uniques and sets. Though then again, in Vanilla Diablo 2, rares were the best items in the game until Lord of Destruction came out. So who knows how that will be in Diablo 3 as far as the itemization is concerned. Some monsters are interesting, some aren't. I mean, I don't fault them for making zombies not that interesting. They're zombies. They're not supposed to be. They just walk towards you and hit you. So I think I complained about that, but that's not really what I'm complaining about when that, as far as that is concerned. There's, I guess, enough variety, but then again, I can't really say that, because there isn't a huge variety. There's no Fallen anymore, you know? The Quill boars, or the Quill beasts, or whatever, you only face them very briefly in the open area, so those are gone. I mean, on screen right now is all zombies and 2 of the bloated guys. And the bloated guys are just fast-moving zombies that explode for some damage. I mean, they're more interesting. I'm trying not to be negative, guys, but I'm not going to lie either. I'm going to say what I honestly believe. Picking up Threatening Shout. I picked up Cleave a while ago. Cleave is just a small area of effectability. Threatening Shout is a damage reduction ability, reduces damage by, I think, 25%. Eventually you can rune it to make it also into a taunt, among other things, which will be cool for multiplayer. Cleave is fine. It's a little weak. It doesn't hit very hard. I don't know what its weapon damage modifier is, but it definitely hits softer than Bash. But then again, it's also an AoE. But it definitely gets a lot better when you rune it. And I have Hammer of the Ancients going. Not a huge fan of Hammer of the Ancients. It has a small effect. It hits hard, but it also uses a lot of rage, so I don't know. Blink Bats, I think, can be more interesting. They should teleport or something innately. Because just the zapping with electricity doesn't really do much. But I don't know how that'll progress. The voice acting, it does a good enough job. They have some voice actors I've heard before. I can't really fault them. It's a little over the top at times, but it's good all the way around. I haven't really listened to the dialogues enough, though, again, to make a solid judgment call on that. You know, I like the classes. I really do like the Witch Doctor, even if their numbers are a little weak in the beginning. I love their flavor. I do really enjoy the Demon Hunter, even if I don't like their hatred spenders so much. I like the Wizard, even though I don't like their signatures. I like the monk well enough, I guess. And the barbarian, there's nothing wrong with the barbarian. He's certainly far more interesting than the barbarian in Diablo 2. It's just, he's a warrior. He's a pretty standard warrior with some interesting abilities, but it's stuff that I've seen before. A lot of his abilities are inspired from World of Warcraft, especially, so I've seen it before. Every class I like, it's just they have problems that bother me. Just little things, or even big things when it comes to resources that bother me. So, when this game comes out, it's not going to be perfect. It's going to have its problems that hopefully they'll improve upon. Right now, and I would never do this in real life. I would never judge a game based upon, an hour of gameplay in its first act. But if this was the entire game, and it's obviously not, I would probably say the game warrants an 8. I think that'd be a pretty fair rating. With all my negativity and everything else, I wouldn't give it a 7.5. I consider that a C, and most games that are rated a 7.5 I don't think are worth playing, the exception being hack-and-slash RPGs generally aren't rated high. They're usually rated, even Diablo 2, which is arguably the greatest hack-and-slash RPG ever made, got an 8.5. Lord of Destruction got an 8.5. So, the vast majority, Titan Quest, Torchlight, I think Torchlight got in the 8s. Titan Quest I think got like a 7.5, so that's why I say usually I wouldn't play that, but I think I would if it's a hack-and-slash RPG, just by the way that the community rates them, the critic community rates them. So I give the game an 8 so far. Hopefully they'll earn an 8.5. But as it stands, I can't justify anything more than an 8. Certainly nothing more than an 8.5. I'm very interested to see what the game ratings sites give it. Hopefully they'll be fair and not be biased either way, or against. But only time will tell. I will continue trying to think of positive things I can say about the game, because I have been negative and I don't want to come off as biased. There absolutely are things I like about the game, and again, and I've said this before a few times, it is a good game. It just has its problems. But we will see once the game is released. So I'm again going to try to cut this into just a 2-parter, if at all possible. And I think that's basically it. So thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to check out my other videos if you haven't. I've made a series on all the 4 other classes: the Witch Doctor, the Demon Hunter, the Wizard, and the Monk. So yeah, check those out if you're interested. Leave comments. I will reply when I can. Let me know what you think. Subscribe would be, great. I would love to get some subscriptions. And give me some thumbs up if you want. So I think I'm going to just cut out here, guys. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.
There's a big pack coming this time. Stand your ground.